For joining us this hour. Here's what's coming up on Network Africa. The United Nations peacekeeping mission in Mali condemns an attack in the north of the country that killed 3 soldiers. Ghana extends the ban on public gatherings until the end of the month. Plus, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa tells citizens to prepare to live with coronavirus for a year or more. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. A lot of stories made headlines over the weekend in Africa. Notable amongst them was the repeated shelling of Libya's main airport and its fuel tanks by warlord Khalifa Haftar. Various countries recorded increases in the coronavirus cases too. Here is a report on stories and reports that made headlines over the weekend. On Sunday, Airport Authority in Tripoli say the Mitiga airport sustained heavy damages a day after shelling hit fuel tanks and damaged passenger planes and departure halls. The Transport Ministry, blaming Eastern-backed forces of Khalifa Haftar, said one of the damaged planes was preparing to fly to Spain to retrieve Libyans stranded in Europe by the coronavirus lockdown.
We had carried out maintenance work at Mitiga Airport last December and were in the process of putting down a plan to develop and expand the airport in addition to what had already been done last December. Unfortunately, yesterday, Mitiga Airport was exposed to close to 80 missiles with huge losses and huge financial losses.
Mitiga is the last functioning airport in the Libyan capital, though civilian flights stopped in March because of repeated shelling, even before the country imposed a lockdown over the pandemic. Ethiopia on Saturday admitted it was behind the shooting down of a privately owned Kenyan plane in Somalia last week, resulted in the deaths of all 6 people on board. The Ethiopian army, in a statement to the African Union, said that the plane was shot down on Monday by Ethiopian troops protecting a camp in the town of Badale in southwestern Somalia. The Ethiopian soldiers mistakenly believed the plane was on a potential suicide mission because they had not been informed about the unusual flight. The aircraft had been carrying humanitarian and medical supplies to help the country fight the spread of coronavirus. Finally, an Italian aid worker who was abducted in Kenya in November 2018 is in her home country after being flown back on Sunday. 25-year-old Silvia Romano embraced her parents and sister and was greeted by Italy's Prime Minister and Foreign Minister after she landed in Rome. She was freed from suspected Islamist group Al-Shabaab near Somalia's capital Mogadishu on Saturday. Italy's Secret Service is said to have been assisted by Turkey and Somalia to secure her rescue. To our main stories now, the head of the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali has condemned an attack in the north of the country that left 3 soldiers dead and 4 others seriously injured. The troops from Chad were on a patrol in the Kidal region when their convoy hit a roadside bomb. Mahamat Saleh Anadif said those responsible for what he describes as a cowardly terrorist act must be apprehended and put on trial. The UN mission known as MINUSMA has around 13,000 soldiers who, together with the French military, are trying to contain a jihadist insurgency which began in 2012. In recent years, the violence has spread to neighboring countries, including Niger and Burkina Faso. We begin our COVID-19 coverage with the latest figures from Africa. According to the Africa Center for Disease Control, South Africa has the highest number of confirmed cases with 10,015 cases, followed closely by Egypt with over 9,400 cases. Morocco comes in third with more than 6,100 cases. Algeria has over 5,700. Nigeria is in fifth position with 4,399 cases, above Ghana with 4,263 cases. Overall, 53 countries on the continent have been affected. However, on the bright side, 21,821 people have recovered from the illness. With the number of cases on the rise in Ghana, President Nana Akufo-Addo has extended the ban on public gatherings until the end of the month as the country's coronavirus cases continue to rise. Schools will remain closed while religious activities, conferences and festivals are banned during the period. All border crossings are also to remain closed. The West African nation has so far confirmed over 4,000 cases and 22 deaths. In a televised address on Sunday night, President Akufo-Addo said extending the measures was necessary to contain the spread of the virus. The restrictive measures were first imposed 2 months ago to curb the spread of COVID-19. Let's bring in Joy News TV's Daniel Dadzie to give us more details on the extension of the ban in Ghana. Hello, Daniel. Good to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Let me begin by asking, what induced the president's decision in extending the ban? And just to be clear, this is a ban on all gatherings, not a form of lockdown, right?
So yes, first of all, this is a ban on public gatherings. And there was initially a partial lockdown where persons could not step out except for essential activities. That lockdown was lifted after 3 weeks. It was first implemented for 2 weeks, then extended for 1 week. And this is, as you said earlier, a ban on public gatherings, which has affected all sorts of events, and including church services. Now, you were asking what occasioned the extension. Well, Ghana has now recorded 4,700 cases. In the past 2 weeks, we have seen a spike in the number of cases recorded. Now, health authorities have, of course, explained that this is because they were clearing a backlog of test samples that were gathered months prior to that. However, the new data suggests that we are seeing an increase in community spread. At the last analysis that we checked, some over 80% of the cases which were recorded were as a result of community spread, and which means that it's necessary for Ghanaians to take extra precautionary measures. Now, in one case, we've seen that 533 people have been infected by one person. And we are referring to this, experts are referring to this person as a super spreader. All of this goes to the fact that extra care must be taken. And that's why these measures have become necessary, according to the president.
Now has 4,700 cases. Now, how are citizens responding to this extension?
The extension itself cuts various ways. There's an entire economy around gatherings and events. We have seen that persons have had to control events. I'm talking about spoken to numerous weddings on my side, whose businesses have come to a halt because of public gatherings. We know that there are persons like pastors, church, the religious community has affected in a huge way. The holy month of Ramadan, for Muslims, started in a very unique way with religious persons who are in public gatherings to gather.
Daniel Dadzie.
And
seems like we're having some connection problem, but Daniel Dadzie, Ghanaian journalist with the Joy News TV, thank you for bringing us up to speed with what's happening in Ghana. We move on to South Africa now, where the citizens have been told to prepare to live with the threat of coronavirus for a year or even more. That's coming from President Cyril Ramaphosa, who warns that it will not be life as is known before, even as restrictions are being eased. People are still expected to social distance, wear masks, and wash their hands, for a while. He used his weekly newsletter on Monday to say that the country will introduce new measures to make contact tracing more effective and implement mass sanitization of workplaces, public transport and other spaces. He also warned that the number of infections is expected to increase. South Africa has passed the 10,000 mark of new infections. And as the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic bites harder, more and more families troop to any place where food parcels are a possibility. While many watchers worry about social distancing or its absence at such places, the people on queue say food still needs to be put on the table. Channels Television visited a number of places and spent a day with former Nigerian international goalkeeper turned pastor Ida Peterside, who uses his church to distribute daily needed food and household items to those in need.
Under normal times, this auditorium would have held big and small church gatherings. Things have changed courtesy of COVID-19. While church services have shifted online, this church decided to turn the auditorium to a collection center for those in need.
When the government was trying to help the poor of the poor in South Africa, they did not include the foreigners. And I'm a foreigner. I understand how it is to survive in a country like this without help. Most of our boys and girls are on the street plaiting hair, looking for food, and no one is helping them. So I said, okay, let the foreigners come.
Outside the church, a winding queue of over 600 people awaited something to take home. Sometimes the crowd got impatient, and many times the call for physical distancing had to be repeated.
Physical distancing gets quite difficult in settings like this. It's all about survival, the people say, as a place on a queue like this is one golden opportunity to keep hunger at bay, at least for a few days for many.
They're trying us, but you can see the format we're using to make sure that the police is here helping us, to make sure that we have social distancing, have my facial mask on. We've given others, if look at people that are coming in, if you don't have a facial mask, we'll not allow you in. And we sanitize them before they come.
So it was in through one door and out through another. Many of them much happier.
Thank you, Jesus.
As we left, the queue had even begun snaking up the major road. We also visited the Deep Sloot township north of Johannesburg, and the picture was the same. Thousands more turned out to collect food parcels during a program that was meant for just young people and single mothers.
Every day we have people standing at our gate looking for food. This morning, from 5 o'clock this morning, we've had people standing at our gate. And people are desperate. And when people are desperate, they are not so resilient and not so tolerant. And today they didn't want to hear that we didn't have food for them.
The picture leaves government quite worried about the health implications, as one of such queues recorded a near 3-kilometer stretch of people queuing up for hours for food.
It's just going to increase the transmission rate. It's something that we are worried about because it might make us, in actual fact, go back on our successes that we have had in the previous 6 weeks.
Lockdown remains on level 4, so many more business sectors are still not allowed to open. But for those open, there's hope that less people will be on queues like this. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Tanzania has relaxed restrictions on international flights to allow repatriation flights. Under the revised measures, repatriation flights will obtain permits within 2 hours instead of the previous 2 weeks. Tanzania's Civil Aviation Authority, TCAA Director General Hamza Johari is quoted as saying that other categories of flights allowed to operate include those involved in distribution of humanitarian aid and medical supplies. Also exempted are technical landings and other safety-related operations. Well, still to come on the program. This automated robotic system in Egypt's pharmacy is helping customers with their prescriptions for contactless purchases. We'll have more in a moment. Please stay with us.